Hey everybody. Okay, so we were reviewing for the unit assessment that is going to be on Wednesday. A lot of it is knowing the vocabulary. We went over what gross income and net income was. If you're still getting confused, remember that gross income is before taxes. It's what you make straight up. So if you were making $10 an hour and you worked for 20 hours, and this is $10 per hour. Okay, so I have my zeros, and I'm just doing it this way so that you can see it. So that's $200. That's gross. That's what you will make before they take out the taxes. And the net income is after taxes. So they're going to take out everything, the payroll taxes, if you had any health insurance, dental insurance, eye vision, or any other deductibles. And so this is what you will get, and that's what you get to spend. So if you see the word paycheck, you see the word take home pay, that all means net income. This is what you get to put in your pocket. This here is all gross income. This is before any tax is taken out. All right, so you were needing to finish up, and I forgot which class had started, but I think that we were here. I think with all classes, we had finished up to page 342, and that's where we had stopped. If you didn't get this portion here, we were at 1 where payroll taxes have increased to Social Security. Remember, payroll tax goes to your Social Security and your Medicare. 3, um, housing, that's all property tax. So you go into a more expensive home, you're going to pay a higher property tax. Lester's gross income increased, so his net income increases as well. And then Micah wants to purchase 2 comic books for $5 each and a set of trading cards for 10. Well, he gives the clerk 20 because you're talking at 5, 10 plus the 10 is 20. But the clerk says, hey, you got to pay for taxes, and the tax he needs to pay is the sales tax. So he's got to get him some more money. And then here we were looking again. Here was an example of $8 per hour for 30 hours. So his gross is 240, his gross income. The net income, remember, paycheck or take home pay. This is what he received, and this is the net income. I took the difference of that, and it was $41, and that was what his payroll tax was that he paid. All right, now let's all move on to this next one. We talked about this today in class. If you did not get that information, please make sure that you write that down and you really understand that, because a lot of it is going to be asking questions on charts of what gross income and net income, and write it down on your paper so that you will know. Lori's dad buys a gas grill. Now, what type of tax does Lori's dad pay at the store? And on here, it's going to be his sales tax. Number 2, for which of the following might property taxes be used? So the property taxes support schools, fire departments, police department. So a new roof for the school, that will come from the property tax. Let's see if I can get a close up of this here. Oops, I can get it. Very good. Number 3, which of the following taxes is withheld from each paycheck by an employer? It's your payroll tax. And then Deja earns $9, or DJ earns $9 per hour working at a shoe store. Her paycheck, remember, last week was $204. That's net income. So remember that when you're taking the test on Wednesday, please, please make those notations to save yourself from a lot of confusion and label. So made $204 for 25 hours of work, which is a true statement about DJ's paycheck. Well, I know that this is hours worked, and it was $9 per hour. So you can multiply it out like this, or if you switched it to, um, if you had, so you can either, if you know that 25 at $4 and then $8 is, so 25 times 4 is 100, and another group of 4, which would make it 8, that's 200, plus one more group of 5, that makes it 225, or just simply multiplying it out. This is per hour. And so it comes out to $225, which is gross pay. So we know that her net income, it already told us that it was $204. So there's no way it could be 213. It told us this. Her payroll taxes were $25. It did not ask us about that, didn't ask us to take the difference. It wouldn't be $25 anyway, because this is her gross. And if we were to subtract that out, her gross, her payroll taxes would be $21. So that's not a true statement. And her sales tax deals with retail products. You go to the store and you buy a bag of markers, or you buy some pencils, you have to pay tax on that. Go to the dollar store, everything's a dollar plus tax, right? So her sales tax have nothing to do with payroll taxes, nothing to do with sales tax. I mean, your payroll or your pay stub or your income. So that makes no sense. So the only logical explanation would be her gross income was $225. All right, over here, we labeled everything and I went through it and I can't remember which class I went through it with. So I just went ahead and redid this portion here. So we had John and Stan, they're both nurses, but they work at different hospitals. And here's their paycheck steps. So John, his earnings, this is his pay period, 3/15. So it's March 15th of 2020, and then 3/27 of 2020, and then 3/15 to 3/27. So it's a 2-week time frame. He brings home, this is his gross income, so it's not his take-home pay. He makes $1,603. His payroll tax is $123. So he needs to subtract that out, and that equals to $1,480. So here it was $1,984 on gross income, minus $152 for the payroll tax, equals his net income or amount of check was $1,832. So now, based on this information that you already know, I needed to go back and check. John's gross income is $381 less than Sam's gross income. So I needed to take gross income here and subtract the gross income. And that is a true statement. It is $381. So now I go to Stan's payroll taxes. Is $29 more than John's payroll taxes. So now I'm going to take the difference. 152 minus 123. That is a true statement. Stan's is $29 more than. So I put true. John's net income, remember the amount of the check is net income. This is why it's really important that you label, is $123 less than his gross income from his pay period. Yes. Remember you had to subtract it out? So it is $123 less, because if you added the $123 plus his net income, you'll get his gross income. So that's a true statement. And here it says Stan's net income. So here's Stan. His net income is the amount of his check, is $380 more than John's net income. So here I subtracted out. I have $1,832 minus $1,480, and I get 352. So that's not a true statement. So do you see how you're going to need to go in and make these subtractions and to when you're comparing people's paychecks? Okay, so you'll need to be very wary of that, because you got quite a few problems on that. There's only 12 problems on the test, but there's a lot of the computations that you'll need to do. All right. Alejandro's sister had his receipt in her purse. What type of tax did Alejandro's sister pay? So look at the items. This has a receipt: lipstick, shampoo, chocolate. Subtotal, $9.67. That means that they added all of this, and that's what it equals to. But we have tax here. What kind of tax is that? Absolutely right. It's sales tax. So the sales tax is 85 cents. Add that to the subtotal, and this is what's due, $10.52, what needs to be paid. Every year before April 15th, April 15th is the deadline for to file our taxes. So Floor's parents calculated the tax the federal government collects on their earnings. What type is that? Yep, you got it. Income tax. I think there we go. In addition to their current home, Terrence's family buys a lake house. Oh, nice for them. As a result, what type of tax will probably increase for the family? You got it. Remember, lake house? That's a property tax. David's employer withholds, that means that they take out taxes from his paycheck. The tax money helps fund federal programs like Social Security and Medicare. What type of tax is that? You got it, payroll tax. On Wednesday's test, please make sure that you're looking for that Social Security and Medicare, that withhold, that's that payroll tax. So you'll need to know the vocabularies. You'll have to pick that out. Explain the difference between gross income and net income. Okay, remember that gross income is the total earnings before taxes are deducted. And net income is the earnings after taxes and other deductions there you go. Another thing that you can remember, net income is going to be paycheck, take home pay. Okay, that's all net income. All right, let's take a look at this next one. If you need to pause it, just go ahead and pause. We're looking at forms of payment. Paper money and coins. It's called cash. A paper filled out by a consumer to allow a bank to take money from an account to pay for a purchase. This is called a check. I still write out checks on some things. A card issued by a bank, store, or other business that is used to make purchases on credit. This is called a credit card. This is money borrowed. And most likely you'll pay interest on there. You'll have it where there's some places that say if you open up an account and you pay it in 12 months, it's interest free, but after that you'll pay interest. But most likely you'll pay interest on it with most cards. That's if you don't pay it off that next month. So a card issued by a bank that a consumer, which is us, we're the spenders, we consume these items, right? Uses to pay for purchases with money from a checking account. This is called a debit card. The amount of money in a bank account. This is your balance. A payment made over the internet that allows money to be taken directly from a consumer's bank account. Electronic payment. I just did an electronic payment because it's Monday, Cyber Monday, right? And so it was, what was it? Bath and Body Works has this great sale on their soaps where they're $3 a bottle. So it's like, ooh, oh my gosh, that would be really great. So it's like, and my daughter wanted candles. So I had to do an electronic payment. So I was able to do that. Okay, next one. The secret vocabulary term identifies the place where the written checks are recorded. And this is what is that called? Check register. So what are some key points to remember about different methods of payment? So some of them, key points, we know that a credit card is borrowed money. It's based on credit, can pay interest. So it won't just be the amount due, but it'll be extra. Okay, knowing that a check is we write, it's written form and standard form taken from checking account. A debit card, it's a card that's used that takes directly from your checking account. That paper money and coins, that's that cash, which is always so much better, but it can run into a risk of shoplifting or not people stealing, so you have to be careful. Electronic payments, you also have to be very careful of people hacking, so you have to be really wary, but you have electronic payments, you have your credit cards, you have your bank cards, you have PayPal. There's so many different things, right? All right, so let's go over to this next one. Methods of payment, a check. Again, it's a slip of paper that's filled out to allow banks to take money from a checking account to pay for a purchase. Credit card is issued by a bank or a store or other business that is used to borrow money. So, for instance, Home Depot has their own card, Lowe's has their own card, J.C. Penney's has their own card. So it's we have Visa, MasterCard, Chase has their own bank cards that you can apply for, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. So the banks have their own cards, businesses have their own cards, stores have their own cards. It's just, you can get them anywhere. You just have to be very, very careful. And you borrow money or buy goods and services on credit. Debit card, it's taken out of your checking account. Electronic, it's done over the internet. So let's take a look here. Ian's mom buys a soccer uniform for him. Although she may have to pay interest, she chooses a method of payment that allows her to quickly borrow the money. What's the method of payment? Very good. It's a credit card. Mrs. Harris buys a basketball. He pays with a card so that the basketball can be purchased with money in his checking account. Okay, this is a card. Very good. It's a debit card. Some of you missed these two questions on that quiz that we had before Thanksgiving break. You got the debit card and the credit card confused. Angela signs up for cable TV service. She will save time and postage by paying the monthly bill online. That means it's the internet. So we're looking at the electronic payment. I pay my cable bill, my internet online. I do it electronically. How to keep track of income and expenses. This is really important. Ask your parents about how do they keep track, because it makes it very difficult if you're not keeping track of the importance, the income, and then your expenses. So Shauna earned $15 for washing dishes. So here's your dishes, $15. Your income is the plus, and $5 for walking a dog. So here she brought over this $15. Then she added $5 plus 15 gets her $20. She spent, okay, here's her expenses. Spent $8 for a book. So we took the 20 minus 8 equals $12 and $2 for a snack. So 12 minus 2 equals 10. Now, this is record descriptions of the income expenses and record money received in the income column. Record the money spent in the expense column. To determine the balance, add the income amounts and subtract the expenses. After she bought the snack, let's move this up here. After she bought the snack, Shauna spent $3 for gum. So I'm going to write gum. She spent, so that's an expense, and I'm going to put my $3 here. 10 minus 3 equals, she's left with $7. But she earned, this is income, earned $4 for mopping the floor. So this is mopping, or you can write the word floor. So I'm going to put my $4 here. And I'm going to add $7 plus $4. She has now $11 in her bank. So we recorded with the two columns, expenses and the income. Anything that she earns is income. Anything she spends, that's the expense. Look at the example problem. What do you like about Shauna's system for keeping track of her income and the expenses, and how might Shauna's system be improved? I myself I like to make sure that I can catch my mistakes, so I would bring the 15 over. I would skip a line and I would put my $5 plus, and I would put my 20, and then I would subtract. So I wouldn't put it all like this because I have to go back and check my work. So this is good, but I also like to show my work on this side just in case. All right. So, but what is it for you? What would you like to do? Now we're on Saturday. Mr. King prepared for her son Toby's birthday party. Reduce this a bit. So Mr. King or Mrs. King used a debit card to purchase pizzas for $50. She wrote a check for $100 to rent a bounce house. She used a credit card to buy a $30 skateboard to give Toby. The following week, Mrs. King's electric bill included a $5 for the cost of power for the bounce house. Because Mrs. King uses electronic payments for the electricity, this expense was deducted directly from her checking account. Now let's look at this first question. What is the total amount of party expenses deducted directly from Mrs. King's checking account? All right, well, we know that a debit card is directly from the checking account. A check is directly from a checking account. A credit card is a loan, so this is on credit, so that won't affect her account. An electronic payment, we know that it comes directly from a checking account. So when I'm adding this up, the total amount is $155. Let's look at the next one. Mrs. King was glad she could borrow money to cover one expense since she did not have quite enough money in her bank account. For which expense did Mrs. King borrow the money? And she bought a skateboard. Which of the following is an advantage Mrs. King has by using electronic payment for the monthly electric bill? There's no opportunity for her identity to be stolen. Well, that's not really true. She does have opportunities of being stolen. Um, but we're looking, that's not an advantage. Um, if she switches banks, she will get free electricity. That's not true. You still have to pay. You use electricity, you got to pay for it. She can fill out a slip of paper to pay the bill, not electronics. She saves the price of postage. There we go. Because it just goes on the internet. There's nothing to pay out. All right, so use this ledger to answer questions 4 and 5. Toby received birthday money from several party guests, including a $50 bill from his grandpa. Oh, that's cool. Now, Toby spent some of the money the next day, so Toby created this ledger to organize his records for the birthday money. On April 11th, cash from Sarah. The income was $10. Income, that's money coming in, so that's a plus. So she moved it right over here. April 11th, cash from Grandpa. How much did Grandpa give her? Or him? $50. So I'm going to put 50 here. So 50 plus 10 equals 60. Cash from Joe was $15. So 15 plus 60 equals 75. Now he went shopping on the next day. So he bought some jeans for $25. So now I have to subtract out because it says to minus out my expenses. So 75 minus 25 equals 50. Then he bought a wristwatch. So 50 minus 40 equals, very good. It's $10 is what he has. So some spaces on the ledger are labeled with letters. Where should Toby record an amount of $50? And we did it here, so it would be in space A only. It can't be A and B because we had to add $10 to it, and that's 60. It's not space B only because this is the balance that we have there. So it's space A for the income. Which amount should Toby record in space C? All right, so again, this is the balance, and this is after all the deductions were made, and it was $10. Let's look at this last page. Jack writes a check to pay for groceries, which is a disadvantage of writing checks. There is a record of the purchase. Well, that's not a disadvantage. That is an advantage. There is less risk of losing cash from theft. That's an advantage. But a disadvantage is there are bank fees. So if you write the check and you don't have enough money in the bank, we say that it's called an insufficient or non-sufficient funds, and you can be charged. So you have to be very careful. There's no extra weight for carrying coins. That's an advantage. But this is dun dun dun. You got to make sure that money's in the bank. Ronnie signs up to pay his monthly water bill using electronic payment, which is an advantage of electronic payments. They're always safe. No, they're not always safe. You have to be very careful. They save time. Oh, that's a good one. All businesses accept them. Not all businesses. I know I have to mail in one payment because not all businesses do. No technology is needed. That's not a true statement. If you're doing electronic, you need to have internet. So the correct answer is they save time. Leslie wants to buy a box of pens at the dollar store. She does not have any cash or checks, but she wants money to come from her checking account. Which is the method of payment best meets Leslie's needs? Very good. It's a debit card. Remember, she wants to buy this. It wants to come directly from her checking account. No money, no checks. So it's a debit card. Sally wants to use her credit card to pay for a mountain bike. What is a disadvantage of using the credit card? She doesn't have to carry. That's an advantage. She could buy the bike now and pay for later. That's an advantage. A disadvantage was she might have to pay interest. So if there's no specials, she'll have to pay interest if she doesn't pay it off the next month. Mrs. Taylor receives a paycheck of $1,600 every month. She writes checks to pay the rent, bills, and other expenses. Which of the following is the best way for Mrs. Taylor to keep track of her income and expenses? Put her receipts in a shoebox? No, absolutely not. Remember expenses without recording them? That is super hard. Errors for mistakes. Use a credit card statement to show the expenses? No. She needs to record expenses in a check register. And now this last one, Latoya earned $8 for her allowances. Okay, so she earned $8. She spent $4 for candy. So she has $4 left. So I'm going to bring my $4. She spent $1 for erasers. So that leaves her with $3. Latoya used a ledger to keep track of the allowance money. Which of these is a true statement about Latoya's ledger? An amount of $3 is recorded under balance. And that is the answer because that's how much she has left is $3. All right, that was it for this evening. And we will finish up the review and have the test on Wednesday. Have a great night.